Hey everybody, I've got a video here for you today. Obviously you're looking at what we know today as the Sphinx, and this has been one of the ongoing subjects that I have discussed with people, and mainly my concern is what is the original form of what we know today as the Sphinx. And people have been arguing with me, leaving comments, I don't know what I'm talking about, blah blah blah. But I have put out videos where I think it is a possibility, and that's what my channel is all about, is presenting possibilities. And if possibilities offend you, then ancient history is not what you should be watching videos on. But I have put out videos that it is a possibility that the original form of the Sphinx was Anubis, or what came down to it, the Egyptians as Anubis. I believe the Sphinx was carved thousands of years before people say it was. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But this was found in King Tut's tomb. And the reason for this, and he was found in many other pharaohs' tombs on the walls and such, because he is really the guide, the preeminent god of resurrection. He is guardian of the dead, and he is guardian of the necropolis in Egypt, in Egyptian mythology. And the necropolis was the Giza plateau. So, I mean, it doesn't take too much to put two and two together to at least present the possibility that the original form of the Sphinx was a jackal god that came down to the Egyptians as what we know today as Anubis. I think that is highly probable, and I will leave some links below. Here is what the back of the Sphinx looks like today, and when people tell me I don't know what I'm talking about and they present their argument, they always really rely their whole argument, or they base their whole argument on the word Sphinx. And this monument was given the name Sphinx by the Greeks a little over 2,000 years ago when they wanted to attach their mythology to things in Egypt. So past 2,000 years ago or so, if you would have said Sphinx, nobody in Egypt would have known what you're talking about. That was never the original name of this monument. It's only a culture coming in later that tried to attach their mythology to it. And that's what many people, including some people I totally respect, that's what they base their argument on, the name Sphinx. And that is just a name given to it 2,000 years later by the Greeks. Just like down at Luxor, a lot of people refer to this as the Colossi of Memnon. And these are statues of Amenhotep III at his mortuary temple. And, people refer to them as the Colossi of Memnon. The Greeks just put that label on these. I believe one or both of these was tipped over, and these actually whistled or kind of produced a song when the wind hit them, and that's why the Greeks call them the Colossi Memnon. I will leave a link for that video below. But here we see the back of the Sphinx, and here is the original form, obviously eroded greatly. And you see here some early restoration work, and down below and on the paws, more recent restoration work, so the original form is slowly being covered over. I have made a video on the paws and how restoration work was done over the original form, but the original form is still pretty much there, and these are dog's paws. They are not lion's paws. The ancient Egyptians and their statues and monuments got proportions exactly right. These aren't lion's paws. And the head here, the least eroded part of the Sphinx, yet it was exposed to the elements for a lot longer than the body, because we know the body was covered for many thousands of years. So there's a problem there. And if the original form of the Sphinx, which Egyptologists tell you it is, with the head of a pharaoh and the body of a lion, you would expect pretty much uniform erosion all the way around, because pretty much the whole thing would have been exposed to the elements in the rain. And if you're familiar with John Anthony West and Robert Schoch's work, there was a rainy period many thousands of years before Egyptologists say this monument was built that eroded the body of the Sphinx and the Sphinx enclosure. But you would expect uniform erosion all the way around it. But if originally it was in the form of a dog, such as this that was found in many of the tombs. And here is Ramses' tomb, and I believe this was the original form of the Sphinx. This is why it was shown in all, or why Anubis is found in all these tombs. He was a god of resurrection. He was out there on the Giza plateau. The pharaohs knew this. It was no big secret. And if the original form was like this, and I believe it was, or there's a great possibility it was, or something like this, the only spot I would not expect to find uniform erosion would be right on the front chest of Anubis. But if the Sphinx had originally the head of a pharaoh, like Egyptologists say, the front of the Sphinx here would have had equal erosion, but not if it was in the form of a dog, because rainwater would have been hitting the dog's nose and head extending out, coming down. So I would expect to find a little less erosion right down here on the front chest of what we know as the Sphinx. And here's a picture from the 1880s. The only spot on the Sphinx with less erosion, or the least amount of erosion, is right under what would have been the dog's head. And here you can see that jutting out, and it doesn't do that quite as much today, but still you can see a little trace of it today. You can see it right here. But listening to Robert Schoch and listening how this erosion takes place, I would definitely expect to find less erosion if the dog's head stuck out right here. And that's exactly what we see. I'm not a geologist. Am I crazy? Does this make sense? I think it does. Hope you thought this was interesting. You have a nice day.